Can we dream for Eloise? I've been on a little bit of a Bridgerton kick behind the scenes, okay? So you guys don't know it yet, really. Deep down, um, I think I love Bridgerton in many ways. Surprise, surprise, I have realised I don't need to watch constant fucking propaganda and medical versions of propaganda to see diverse characters in media. Wow, big shocker for once. It just took Bridgerton to make me finally start to move away from that a little bit more. So I am in my romance girly era. Maybe not quite, but you know what I mean. I'm I'm branching out, trying to do things a little bit differently. I'm trying to fight against the PDA autism. For those for those who don't know, PDA autism specifically is like the pathological demand avoidance. I know people call it other things, but like for me, pathological demand avoidance rings relatively true. Some people call it like persistent something for persistent drive for autonomy or something. No, I'm very demand avoidant. Sorry. Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me, bitch. Anyway. So, and dare I say it, I fear Eloise may also be a PDA autistic. I enjoy the Bridgerton family members. Most of them, we do know from the one video I've put out that me and Daphne, there is a war that has been waged. Does that make sense? I think so. War has been waged. Is that it? I don't know. Whatever. I'm making shit up. I hate her. Okay? I keep seeing memes where people are like, I want Daphne back. When's Daphne coming back for this? Daphne missed the weddings. I'm like, no, I don't give a fuck. Don't bring her back. Fuck off. Stay where she is. Stay the fucking Hastings. Don't bring her back to fucking Mayfair. Fuck off. The point of the Jesus Christ. Anyway, diversity, love it. Not enough disability rep, not enough gay shit. We know all this with me. So there's a lot of things I would love to talk about with Bridgerton. If anything, my brain's sort of going like 100 miles per hour, and honestly, those last like 3.5 minutes is a really good like a really good little snippet of like what my brain is like when thinking about Bridgerton, because yeah, like I have so many thoughts and ideas I would really love to discuss and explore in videos, and I can't make up my mind whether it's best to break them down into individual topics or just kind of explore through the seasons or kind of do a bit of both and things like that. So yeah, I just don't really know. But right now, I'm so sorry. Right now, I'm talking about Eloise. Her season is coming up at some point in it. We've got eight, I can't count. There's 8 kids in the Bridgerton family. We've gone through, we've gone through 4 officially, right? I'm assuming we're going to come back round to Francesca for like another, for like a gay round. Okay, we're going to come back round for the sapphic round in it. The John round was like, yeah, really, okay. So many thoughts, but shut the fuck up. So I think we're going to come back round for like a more centered season on Francesca. So like her love story with John, like happened, counted, but like wasn't like a centered around her season, right? So we had Daphne, Anthony, Colin, Benedict. After this, I'm assuming that one of the next 2, I think everyone knows that one of the next 2 seasons is going to be either Francesca or Eloise. Nobody knows. Do they know? Is it the order of the books? I don't know. I don't want to read the books because they sound horrendous. They sound awful. I think we all agree that it's going to be one of these two next because the other two left are still very young. They're like 17, 18-ish in age, right? It's Gregory, who I called George in my last video. I'm so sorry. And Hyacinth, too young. Also, side note, everyone who's like, they're going to recast them, right? It's going to be weird, right? Do any of you have brain cells? Do any of you have brain cells? Have any of you watched child actors in one thing and then those child actors as adults in literally anything else as adults? I'm sorry, but what the fuck do you mean they're going to recast them? Shut up. So I'm going to discuss a little bit about Eloise. So I read this thing that I'm going to like piss me off a little bit about Eloise's season. Because I'm a bit pissed off in some ways because they spoiled the season for the people who have read the books, but also even the people who haven't read the books, because it's a bit like you've kind of just they've kind of divulged stuff. So if you don't want to know, don't watch this video. But they said, I think we are interested in honouring the love interest from Eloise's book. Jess told the outlet. I can dispel she's not ending up with Theo. Fuck you. Fuck you. She's ending up with the love interest from her book. For those that haven't read the book, Eloise marries Sir Philip Crane, who has already been introduced in the show. Played by Chris Fulton, Sir Philip appeared very briefly in seasons 1 and 2. He's currently married to Marina Thompson, who was previously engaged to his brother George before George's untimely death in battle. And the two have 2 children together. And for those who wanted Eloise to end up with the print shop worker Theo, those dreams have now been quashed. Eloise will also not explore a queer romance either, despite the theories that the character is queer coded. So yeah, they've kind of ruined they've ruined the season. Like, just shut up. I think they should have just shut the fuck up. Let people dream. This video basically was what I wanted to discuss. The different options I had in my mind that I would have liked to have seen Eloise explore in her season. And also, like, there was something I found when I was doing a little bit of my research for my romance tropes video, which you can go and watch, by the way, which I just thought was so lovely and such a cute little, like, 2 sides of the same coin that felt very Eloise and Benedict. And I thought as well was so cute with the symbolism of them sitting on their swings. I felt that they were the related romance tropes of sworn off love and allergic to commitment. So sworn off love is Eloise. With this trope, one character just isn't interested in love. Maybe it's how they're wired, but it's usually because of some event that happened to them earlier that hurt them so bad. Maybe it's a first love romance that didn't have a happy ending, that they've sworn off love forever until someone makes them reconsider. And related to this, allergic to commitment, one character has no trouble getting into relationships. The real problem is staying in them. Because once things start getting serious, that's when that character starts looking for a way out, maybe because of a past event or fear of the future. And I actually think as well, both of them are a little bit of an atypical representation of those tropes, because I don't think it's even necessarily like something that happened to Eloise that made her swear off love. Like, yeah, I think she is just uninterested where everybody else is interested in love. I don't think she's necessarily uninterested because, especially because of this last season, season 4, we've seen that people have become uninterested because of the heartbreak of death, the heartbreak of being betrayed, all these sorts of things happening. I just think that she just finds so many other things more interesting because she has that closer relationship with her brothers, but especially Benedict in particular. Colin, for example, found travel to be more interesting than romance. Benedict found literally everything ever more interesting than romance, but also found romance interesting. But then I found his allergic to commitment to be atypical, because it wasn't that when it got serious, he bailed. It was almost as if that when he got serious in some ways, or when things got serious, something else happened. He kind of ended up being the unlucky guy in love, or something came up and the other person ditched him. And, you know, it was always something that happened that made him seem like he was the allergic to commitment guy. It wasn't necessarily that he was actually allergic to commitment, but they looked like the two sides of that coin. And I just thought that was interesting and very cute that those two are like, you know, the two besties and close siblings. I wanted to do a little Can We Dream for Eloise. Also, because I've had some fucking rude comments recently on some of my other videos where I've discussed other shows, where I've talked about different things that I might have liked to see happen or might have liked to see represented on the show. And a lot of the times it's not even like I would have definitely preferred this. It's usually like I would have liked to have seen this. And it's not even like I hate what the show is doing. A lot of the times I like what the show has chosen to do. It's just that I also would have liked a more diverse option, or I can appreciate that an audience would have liked a more diverse option. So I'm going to say right now that just because I'm saying all these things does not necessarily mean that when whatever comes out, does not necessarily mean I'm going to hate it, okay? I don't know. But I've had enough of people commenting on my videos and just like hearing me wrong. Sorry, your ears don't work. Clean your ears out. Go and watch my video on auditory processing disorders and go and get fucking diagnosed. Stop being so fucking rude to me. Jesus. I'm just talking about media and having a good fucking time. Stop being an asshole. You know, just because I say I'd like to see a character be queer does not mean. Also, the amount of people who are saying, why does it have to be sexualized when I say it'd be nice to see something be queer? That's homophobia. Me saying I'd like to see something be queer does not automatically make it sexual. That is homophobia. Anyway, into the actual content of the video. After all of my 47,000 rants and what the fuck ever, editing me, I'm so sorry. Whilst it would be lovely to give Eloise exactly what she wants, that's obviously not going to fucking happen. I think exactly what she wants is to, I don't know, I guess maybe to establish that. Would that be to live on her own? To live independently, or would it to be to live with her mother or one of her family members, but also to continue to live with a similar social standing as a married woman? I think so. So that's obviously not going to happen. Like, that's not a thing that happens in this particular society anyway. And I don't think that's something that's going to just be like poof changed or what the fuck ever. You know, there's a lot of things that the this little world doesn't really want to acknowledge and change, and that does frustrate me a bit. There is the inconsistencies of like whether the show is race blind or not, especially last season with Benedict not being able to work out who Sophie was. I love this man, but that was very ridiculous. I feel like it's been shown gay people can't be out. We haven't seen a gay couple out and about. We know that Queen Charlotte's little footman was not out with his partner. Michaela does not appear to be out. Like, disability is like fine, but we haven't had like a leading disabled protagonist yet. That I'm still waiting for that. Like, yes, we've had a lot of background and side character disabled people. I'm waiting for a leading canon disabled character still. What else was I going to say? I've forgotten. Oh, and also like the class thing. Obviously, the class thing. You know, they had to come up with the whole scheme to make Sophie a noblewoman. What is she still going to be able to be friends with her working class mates? I don't know. I also realized with this point specifically that one of the issues mainly actually with season 4 was the fact that Sophie was illegitimate rather than working class, because Kate was working class in season 2. So is class really an issue in Bridgerton? I know that, Kate was kind of married into a higher class family, but that's a bit more confusing because really the lady married down into a lower class family who became her stepmother. Her father was still a working class man. Kate was not an illegitimate child, but she was still a working class woman, so they were still like a working class family, technically. So I don't, yeah, what's the issue with working class people? Would Theo have really been a problem? Would Theo have actually been an issue? So yeah, that's another issue that I bring up here as well, and an issue that I bring up later in the video a few times anyway, that now kind of doesn't make any sense either and becomes null and void. Thanks to both brothers now, they've both married technically below their class, and one of them has now married an illegitimate woman as well. But this whole like class divide thing now just completely makes no sense. So why can't Eloise marry a working class man? Particularly as she seems to have no interest in having children. Why does that matter? Like, yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't seem to make any sense to me. It would just seem to be reenacting what happened with Kate's family. Eloise would basically just be what Edwina's mother would have been doing, basically. Marrying a man below her station or whatever. So, again, like why is it not a possibility? Why is it not allowed? Why does it even really matter? Why is it such a scandal? And why is it a scandal that Eloise even really cares about anymore? And that's what's kind of coming up here, that Eloise obviously then won't have an easier time being able to fall in love with somebody like Theo. A lot of those things. It is just all a bit inconsistent, a little bit frustrating on those counts. And then yeah, the same thing with like unmarried women. That is also a thing that cannot be challenged still. So here are some of the scenarios that I've dreamed up. I'm sure I've borrowed things from other people. I'm sure that other people have said similar things elsewhere, whether I've seen them or not. I'm sure my first example is honestly somewhat like what the original plot might be, or what the plot of the show might end up being like, because my first one is a marriage of convenience but better. Instead of what I remember reading somebody discussing the book being like, which just seemed very sad. Just kind of sad and just like, yeah, okay, I guess I'll finally do this just because everyone says so and get it over with, and finally just get everyone off my back and blah blah blah. Just to kind of like placate everyone. I envision a version where she actually kind of does it more in her own terms, where it's more like a contract deal between her and the man. Almost what we saw in season 3 with Penelope and what's his name. Like, he was really nice. Can we bring him back? Why can't Eloise marry that man? Why does it have to be Philip Crane? Why can't it be that nice blonde man who's away most of the year, Because, like, he was just like, I just need someone who can manage my estate, like, when I'm away. He was also very nice, very, like, chill, chatty, has his own interests, was also very much like, love a woman with her own interests. I don't give a fuck what you're into. Like, go be your own woman. Slay bitch, the kind of like contract marriage where it's just like, yeah, we're just gonna hang out at family affairs to bat off each other's family, during like the summer season or some shit, so then we can spend the rest of the year being left the fuck alone. so they won't pester us all the time. That also will prevent her from being sat in like all the undesirable spots at the social functions, the things that she was really upset about that we see her realizing in like the first part of part 4, when she is like I can't remember what they were saying, but you know when she was with Hyacinth at her like little classes and stuff, and she was like, "Well, I'd have to sit next to like old man uncle like Philip or what the fuck ever his name was. You know, a man who's nice to her, respects her, but then generally lets her do whatever the fuck she likes. But also generally, ideally, a man who doesn't want children, won't force her to have children, won't force her into having them, as she doesn't really seem to want any herself. And like honestly, the family has enough children. There's like 8 of them. I'm sure they're all having like at least one each. Like Eloise does not need to have children too. I'm sure it's fine, you know? Also, someone who doesn't, forcefully make her a stepmother if she doesn't want to be a stepmother, which is the situation that would happen with Philip Crane. Sir Philip Crane. But yeah, she seems to be like the only Bridgerton woman who seems like uncomfortable around babies, children, the idea of holding or playing with people's babies, except like I think when Anthony and Kate come back with Edmund, I think then she's like, oh, baby, cute. But anybody else's baby, she was just like, hello, baby. You know? It's like, that felt like, as well, a more likely scenario. So I was sort of like, here's a likely scenario, but in a more idyllic version of that. This is what I would like to see that I feel like would happen. So, scenario number 2, and I know how you guys like to tussle. She's gay. I've seen a lot of arguing on the internet about this. I don't really know why, because one of the arguments is about her being a stereotypical gay, which, number 1, how? And number 2, why would that be bad? And number 3, how many stereotypical gays are there in media these days? Because I don't know that many. I was actually trying to start making like lists to try and make a video or make a couple of videos because of this argument online. And yeah, like most, especially like when it comes to like sapphic representations, stereotypical like queer women, most of the examples I can think of are from like 10 plus years ago and are in prison. So what's so bad about having like a raging political lesbian? It's not like, as well, this show is lacking in straight feminine feminist characters. I think that that's a really funny remark as well that I hadn't really clocked before. One of the arguments I see used a lot to defend this, to defend the idea that Eloise shouldn't or doesn't have to be a queer character, is the fact that she's a great representation for being a political straight woman. Is that and it's like, yeah, but there are, like, that's one of the few things I feel like this show does not lack. It is one of the few things this show has a lot of. There are lots of strong feminist women in this show, especially the more you delve into this show, the more seasons you watch of this show. And if you also watch the spin-off of Queen Charlotte herself is a really great example of that. Lady Danbury, like Kate was going to be a spinster, and she was quite happy with this idea as well before she fell in love with Anthony. And also Lady Danbury is a black woman who, technically is not a spinster. I can't think what they technically call them, besides, a widow. There is another word for it, but I can't think what it is. But, she has not taken up another husband after her husband died, who she did not love and did not want to be with, and was in a horrific relationship with. But I feel like those two and Queen Charlotte are really great examples of feminist women of colour. Also, I've read as well that apparently they will be featuring Kate a lot in Eloise's season. I don't know how true that is, because I've been seeing this on Facebook, and honestly a lot of Facebook pages are literally just bot pages spewing random shit. But it would make so much sense. And like I think people really do love Kate, and I think a lot of people would really like to see her come back, and her character would make so much sense. But I don't know how they would make her character make sense with the plot line of the book, from what I've read in the article that I will link in the description, because it's somehow even more depressing than I was led to believe. And then, yeah, as well, there's also plenty of things that Sophie said and was saying in season 4 as well. And, like, I always see those two paired with Eloise all the time with their one-liners about, what men should be expecting, or how they should be treating or thinking or speaking of women. And I think Penelope was/is the same, but she has kind of had to be mellowed out a lot because of her character getting married off and then kind of being used as a pawn. This is something that I would like to talk about in its own video at some point, maybe in like a season 3 particular like video, that what they did with Lady Whistledown overall as an arc was just like a bit naff, because once everyone knew that it was Penelope, like, what were you gonna do with it? So it's all just been like her character's been a bit mild, because she's had to be very careful with what she can and can't do and say. But also there is this creator that I saw on Instagram who made a really good video that I'll put a small snippet of in this video, but I don't want to put the entire video in my video, obviously. But I saw it on Instagram.
I actually want more stereotypical lesbians on TV. Within the context of people being excited for Francesca's storyline in Bridgerton to be queer, I've seen some people praise the adaptation for making Francesca the lesbian character rather than a more obvious or stereotypical choice.
The username is Aria Vels. And they did a very good video talking about like wanting to see more stereotypical lesbians on TV. And like I would go further and say more stereotypical queer people in general, because like I agree with everything that she was saying, but I would push it further to say I would want to see more stereotypical, like, just queer men, queer women, trans people, like sapphics, bisexuals, what the fuck ever. Like, I feel like it is something that is just missing from media, that we are not getting any queer, like, we're not really getting queer coding anymore. Queer coding has lost its magic. Queer coding is now purely in whether there's sexual tension between characters and nothing to do with anything else, except from in some very few pieces of media that think more about it, like Yellow Jackets, for example, where like in Jackie's room, the colours of her room are the lesbian flag, for example. And like her clothes at home versus her clothes out in the wilderness. Her clothes at home are very like femme, versus her clothes out in the wilderness are very like cutesy, like Peter Pan collared, but like boyish, queer coded rather than lipstick lesbian-esque. Both are valid identities, but it's just an interesting juxtaposition that implies implies that maybe she doesn't actually want to be dressing in such a high femme way all the time. And yeah, like I said, a lot of the stereotypical characters that come to my mind, at least right away, who are women, are from like Orange is the New Black, and they're all in prison. Like, that's not great that all of the things that, or like the first things that I can think of, and probably a lot of people can think of, are characters who are literally in prison. The only other things that really come to my mind are um I think Sarah Ramirez, who is a non-binary actor, but I don't know if they were playing a non-binary person or if they were playing a queer woman on like the reboot of Sex and the City. But they were playing like a mask presenting either non-binary person or queer woman. But they also got fucking fired for being pro-Palestine, so that was short-lived. And again, besides that, it's like Yellow Jackets, and even then, a lot of them are not particularly masculine. I think the only one that really ticks the box for me is Van, particularly when we're looking at the adult characters. The teenagers, I would maybe give like a bit of a pass to because they're literally in the wilderness for like 2 years. And they're all sharing clothes and mostly all wearing Travis's flannel out in the world, and they're choosing their clothes. The only one who remains to be somewhat on the masculine spectrum is like a soft mask, and that's again fine and chill. We need more soft masks, but those are the people that come to mind. And besides that, the only other things that come to mind are literally non-binary or trans characters, and those, in my opinion, don't really count if you're talking about masculine women or stereotypical like lesbians. Part of this conversation we're specifically trying to have. My brain hurts whilst I'm trying to have this conversation. Either way, basically, we don't have enough masculine women on TV anymore. Again, we don't have enough trans people on TV anymore. Again, and we don't have enough feminine men on TV anymore. Again, what happened to the Kurt? What the fuck is his name? I watched Glee once during lockdown and I never watched it again. Kurt, whatever his name is, or like David. What was their last name? From Schitt's Creek, David. David. More. She's still really feminine looking for a start, even if she's more like, I don't know, masculine in body movements. Even then, it's sort of not masculine. It's sort of just a bit like less elegant. But yeah, it's like I don't really get the arguing back and forth about this, because also like I think people are and should be allowed to like headcanon her however they like anyway. But also, why can't she be asexual? I think a lot of the like sexualities of the characters in Bridgerton are a lot less clear cut to me when I watch this show than the arguments make them seem, because I feel the same way about Fran. Like, Francesca does not feel like a lesbian to me. And she doesn't seem like a lesbian in the actress's interviews either. Like, she very much talks about Francesca being in love with John, and I feel that. I also feel and see the interpretation of, maybe Francesca being asexual, particularly up until this point, and like her relationship with John being like a queer platonic relationship. Yeah, I don't know. Like, to me, they're not as clear cut as the arguments online make them seem. So, anyway, Option number two, Eloise is gay. Or at least ends up with a woman, you know? I'm one of the people who wouldn't mind seeing Eloise being a queer woman. I don't care whether that means she's a lesbian or bisexual or, whatever. Some kind of sapphic, due to her feminist preachings in earlier seasons, particularly as she was, quite excited about the working class group of people. I imagine her delving more into that scene and like falling in love with like a mask presenting woman who disguises herself as a man for their like public life, or like maybe even meeting a masculine presenting woman who disguises herself as a man through like Benedict's art circles. Maybe, there's lots of different places that she could have met a woman who disguises herself as a man. Particularly in this time period, there's lots of examples in history of this. And, Benedict was literally running in queer circles all over the place. He could have introduced an Eloise to any of them. And I do feel like that's one of the places that Bridgerton is fumbling, is where they could be playing with like the queerness of gender presentation. That's where a lot of shows fumble, honestly. It's not just Bridgerton, so I won't just blame Bridgerton for that. But like, I feel like there could have been such a good way to play with like a 12th night kind of thing in season 4 with Sophie and Benedict. Very much Sophie could have ended up being like a Viola, a girl at the ball, but disguised as a man working for the Bridgertons kind of thing. And he, fell in love with her as a man. That could have been a fucking sick twist on the Cinderella story, combining with Shakespeare's 12th Night, but the imagination is just not there. So yeah, I feel like that could be one of those ways, especially if the world they are in is a homophobic world, and if Eloise is a queer woman. And even then, a lot of supposedly straight women in history were with these women disguised as men. So it could be any of those things. It really could. So she could still be straight. But there could be lots of little tee-hees that we could be having here with this. There's lots of fandangery, many a ha-ha, much comedy that we are missing out on because we do not have the creative brains in the writing room. So that's another one that I would have liked to have seen. Imagine that just the two of them living together and just like creating such a political revolution. I mean, this also really could have especially been like even more delicious if they'd left that season a little bit later, where Eloise was a bit older and a bit more like, past her prime kind of vibes, because that she could have then also been like kind of proper in her like spinster era and been sort of like, I can't think what the right word is, but something of the arts where they like just like give loads of money, pay money to an artist to make stuff, or like a writer, they sponsor somebody to make shit, and what she could have fallen in love with the artist or whatever. It would have been well sick. I do believe this is my last time I'm going to jump in on the video. But to add in here as well, I do kind of think that there was like some gay shit. There was some gay shit created between Eloise and some of her mates, So like, one of the things was, so this is one thing that I noticed anyway, but also it is literally in the article that I read about Eloise's book. In the books, Eloise takes pleasure in her own spinsterhood, pardonnez-moi, right up until the moment her best friend Penelope Featherington finds a husband of her own. She'd always assumed that they would grow old together because she never so much as dreamed that Penn would ever find love. So there's definitely two, like, associations with that. One of them is she was in fucking love with her. Which is definitely the more charitable reading of that. The other reading of that is that she also thought that Penn was fucking ugly and fat too. You know, the less charitable reading of that. Both are valid, I think. Both are valid readings of that, because I do think Eloise was a bit of a bitch at times. She's a bit of a bitch. There's lots of times where you can see that Eloise is definitely more invested in her own survival, her own, can't think what the word is right now, my brain doesn't work, but she was definitely more invested a lot of the time in her own goings on, and often ignored what was best for her friends or what was going on in her friends' lives, even when her friends were like talking about it or tried to talk about it. And that leads me on to evidence B, Cressida Calford, where her and Cressida were gay as shit. They were gay as shit. So even before Cressida was sent off to fucking Wales, they were just like really gay, walking around together whilst Cressida was trying to find a husband. And even then, Cressida wasn't even trying to find a husband for love, was she? She was trying to find a husband just to get out from underneath her fucking father's foot so that she could just be free, have the pink drawing room of her dreams, my love. In it, she loved going to the theatre with her mates, going for jaunts, all of her gay activities, gossip, reading, you know. And actually, I think it could have been a really good setup that she's come back with a new husband, with her new husband, and she just moves her little Bezzy mate in, her little spinster Bezzy mate, who's actually her fucking mistress. This is my fucking mistress. But like, I don't know, disguised as her. I don't know, what did they say in season 4? Because they were talking about how Sophie was so well spoken and well educated, and they say that a lot of like well educated women often end up being disguised as governess. That's the one. Yeah, I thought that was the name for it. Yeah, like I could see her like played off as like a governess or something, being seen as like a tutor of some kind. Giving it a reason makes it make sense to other people. But yeah, like I feel like we peeled back some layers of Cressida in season like 3. So she wasn't just like the evil bitch, you know? We peeled back some of those layers. We saw that she had a lot of family pressures that kind of made her that way, and she took it out on like an easy target. Wasn't okay, but did she apologise? I don't remember. I think she did. I think she tried to apologise. I don't think Penelope was like very chill with that. I would also put money on Cressida being the next Lady Whistledown, because she practiced all that time to get the tone right. I would put money on her being the next Lady Whistledown. It would have been a great little setup of like a secret little love affair starting, and how they could have like kept it up and kept it a secret for many years somehow. And I don't know, until somebody was willing to not continue to keep these things a secret anymore. Because again, we've not had any kind of true confirmation that it is a homophobic society, but we've got the implications that it is, because nobody's actually ever been like outwardly gay in it. It's only safe to assume. So yeah, I could just see them together, going about things as little mates, you know? So they could continue getting away with doing things, but then that was actually their romantic night out. It's just so funny to me how fucking William fucking Shakespeare from the 16, 17 fucking hundreds, something like that, was more interesting and inventive with gender swapping and gender weirdness than we are now in 2020 fucking 6. You know what I mean? Know what I mean? I'm just so, I'm just bored. I'm just bored. It's just copy paste. We haven't had a She's the Man or anything as good as that since 2006 or 8 or 9 or whatever fucking year that was. And that was the best film that's ever come out in literally my entire life, That's the film that made me realise I'm bisexual and trans. What will the young trans do? We need more for the trans agenda. And then, yeah, my last one is definitely not an original thought. So this was one that came from Tumblr. If I can find who it was, I will try to either put it on the screen or like in the description or something of this video. But I think it would be really funny because it does seem to be a bit of a pattern we're seeing that men like flock to Eloise. Like, we know that the Bridgertons are like good stock, Anytime an eligible Bridgerton is out and about, like they are flocked towards. So I saw somebody talk about this, and I can't remember how much of this is my own, so we'll see when I say it out loud. But many men want her, so she gets to have the pick of the lot. I saw them say something about her having 3 men after her. One of them would be the return of Theo, which I would be all for because I love Theo and I love the idea of this. Like, I really would love Theo to come back, and I also just feel like there really should be like a rebellion of like this class structure thing. And I feel like Eloise would have been a great person for that rebellion, particularly as she is so educated on that. And he was so educated. He was so eloquent in speaking, and he was on a level playing field with her education wise. And that's why he was so appealing to her. He was like the one man that actually treated her as an equal person, but also like actually challenged her when she deserved to be challenged. So I think they together could have been like a real power couple, demolishing this class structural thing. And particularly after like the Benedict Sophie fiasco, where they had to like pretend she was nobility for them to actually end up together getting married. Like, I really wondered how they were going to do that, and I'm a bit sad that they didn't end up just getting the Queen's blessing. It just continues to uphold all of those structures. And I understand in some ways it's great because it continues the scandals that are so great for romance books, but isn't half of that as well like challenging them and causing the scandal in challenging them? Also, I just love the actor. He's like cute, I love a brown-eyed boy, hello. And I also love the fact that her and Benedict were like the only ones who didn't give a fuck about class. They didn't give a fuck about class, and they were like, I think they were both willing to risk it all for love, and they were both the ones who didn't seem to give a shit about love or marriage, actually. So yeah, that's why I'd love to bring them back. Another one of the options would be a similarly classed man to Eloise. And then another one would be a very high-classed man, maybe like a prince or something. Because we did have that prince at the beginning. Did he end up marrying Edwina? Don't know. Did we get that confirmation? Don't remember. But, a man who has lots of money to like throw at her. And, all of them want her, but not all of them truly see or understand her. So she finally actually gets to choose a man who really gets her, and possibly, and yeah, this was a note I made before the end of season 4. Sad. Possibly after Benedict's season, where we hope he ends up with Sophie, who we assume is below his station. But who knows, it could turn out to all be a lie, and she comes from a noble father and mother, and it was all just hidden by her stepmother. But if not, Hopefully the family would care less about it, but also again the idea that Eloise doesn't really care for or want to have children maybe will soften the blow of marrying below her station as well. So this is the thing as well. Like, yes, we know that Philip Crane married Marina due to obligation initially anyway, because his younger brother got her pregnant and then died. And she was like, fuck it, go on then. I've been in so much fucking scandal. I've had enough of this shit. Let's go live in the countryside, babe. You know? Fuck it. And they just kind of lived out in the countryside depressively. And we don't know what happened yet. I'm assuming Marina dies. I don't know. I'm assuming so. I know that the actress left the show because of her mental health, and that the show itself was not particularly supportive to her. You know, she was shot into fame due to Bridgerton. You know, shot into the public eye, and had next to no support system for that. The show wasn't particularly helpful to her, which sucks. So she, yeah, dropped out of the show. So I don't know. It's a strange choice to go with him and not, I don't know, anyone else. Like I said, there's that guy that Penelope almost married. Nobody married him, as far as I know. Nobody references him again, as far as I remember. Because Cressida never married him. We know that she's a Lady Penworth now. He also has 2 children at least with Marina. I'm not sure how that's gonna go. I don't know. I am excited though for the kind of plot point of Eloise being a bit more of a matchmaker for a while. I enjoyed that idea. Kind of like a Lady Danbury. Listen, the lady who plays the Queen is dyslexic, and so am I. And Lady Danbury is a difficult one for me to say. I don't know where the D's and the B's come, okay? Yeah, I do. I did enjoy Eloise's kind of transformation in season 4. I think Hyacinth gave her a kick up the bum she kind of needed. Honestly, I think she needed that kick up the bum. Especially at the end of season 3, the way that she just left Cressida hanging out to dry. I know Cressida was not a nice person, but like, you guys know the kinds of men that some of these women end up being set up with against their will. And she was literally telling Eloise these things. And Eloise was becoming very, very self-obsessed, self-centered. Like, they could have done something to try and at least help her. Like, it all worked out in the end, luckily. But yeah, and I'm glad that she apologized. I really liked that plot point in season 4, Eloise apologizing to Cressida. I like where Eloise's character is going. I'm hopeful that maybe her season will be interesting. But yeah, I'm a little sad about yeah, that release, the quote being released. It's a little bit depressing, really. Boring, you're crushing all my dreams. You're crushing all my dreams for a rebellious girl. Let her be a suffragette. When were the suffragettes? Damn, they were not a thing for like another. Because Bridgerton was like early 1800s, wasn't it? And suffragettes were not until 1880. Oh, another Wikipedia. What? Oh, whatever. Lots of different sources say slightly different dates for like vaguely different things. Anyway, so that's my video. Dreaming for Eloise, wishing for a somewhat more optimistic future for our dear girl Eloise. Let's hope that by the time it comes round, something happens. Yeah, I don't know. Let's hope it ends up better, you know? Apparently the guy, like, I don't know, I don't remember the guy being that hot, but the photos that I keep seeing going around for like the promo of that like quote, he looks a lot hotter than like I remember him being in the show. I feel like this is lies. You're all lying to me. So yeah, that's my video for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. What were your dreams? What were your alternate universe dreams for Eloise? What were your hopes for Eloise's future instead of what happens in her book? Tell me in the comments. Like, it's literally fine if you don't agree with what I say. You just don't need to be a really rude asshole to me about it. Art is subjective. It's literally fine. Just stop calling me annoying and rude, like really rude things all the time. If you think I'm so annoying, you could just turn the video off instead of leaving me a 9-page essay that I'm not going to read, you know? Yes, that did happen recently. Thanks for the algorithm boost anyway, though, lads. Go to therapy. Go and watch my other Bridgerton video and let me know your thoughts on whether you think I should carry on talking about Bridgerton stuff and what things you'd like to hear me discuss more. Don't forget to leave a like on the video, and I will see you next week. Bye.